Hello, and today I'm Beatrice, and I'm not without my sister.
I'm Rosemary. Jesus Christ. So, Beatrice, in today's episode, seeing as we're going to be talking about job interviews, I thought I would ask you, what's your biggest weakness or your biggest flaw when it comes to work, do you think? Go on.
Oh, it comes to work?
Yeah. Is it like a job interview?
I hate that question.
I know. Because everyone always says they're a perfectionist, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. So stupid. Like, what a stupid
answer.
answer.
I can be a bit high strung when I don't get things done on time.
I'm just too good at my job. So
I just let my work take over everything.
I
think
would
about it at the
say,
weekends.
what is my biggest flaw for real? Like,
Yeah.
in work or in an interview?
Career-wise. But like, Beatrice, Jesus, how many interviews have you done? Imagine we're interviewing and I'm saying...
Are you? But
Tell me.
I wasn't sure if you were actually asking me this as an interviewer
I'm
or
actually
asking,
asking
me in general.
No, I'm actually...
Okay.
No,
okay.
listen, I know all your flaws. I'm actually asking, what would you say if I was interviewing you for a job?
Go again.
Okay, Beatrice, that's great. You've told us about all of your, frankly, not very believable strengths. What would you say is one of your main weaknesses?
Well, Fidelma, I'd say that...
That's insulting.
Well, Fidelma, I thought that...
No offence to any Fidelmas out
that was
there.
nice. I didn't say it was a bad thing. I assuming you're a nice interviewer. Well, Fidelma, I'd say that I'm an extreme collaborator, and that can get in the way maybe of sometimes getting things done.
Is that what you'd actually say? No, you wouldn't. In
No,
an
I
interview.
wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
What would you actually say?
I would say... I don't know, because the truth is probably like, I probably shouldn't say this. Well, according to, I was thinking that according to my...
Finally, you've reached the limit of our brutal honesty.
Yeah.
Like suddenly, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't say
No, I
this.
was thinking that I was actually thinking about this this morning, not because we were going to do this topic, because this just was an impromptu topic, but I was thinking this morning that according to my manager, or like managers past, I tend to be emotional, right? But I'm not sure that I'm actually emotional or that I'm passionate because I work in design and I'm creative. And I also wonder if sometimes you're emotional because you're a woman. So
I was about to say
about
a passionate woman is an emotional woman.
So I was going, I don't think, now I know we've already talked about crying at work and I've cried at work, but I don't know that any of my managers witnessed that or saw it. So I think that there's a level of like when a man is emotional, it's like, God, he really cares a lot about this topic. But when you're emotional, it's not the same, right? It's It's kind of like, this is a bit embarrassing.
Unhinged.
Let's just let her get over this, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I would be told that I'm emotional or that I am blunt. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm very direct. And I think that's good. But like they say that your biggest strength is also your biggest weakness, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
So I would say, well, that's what they say. Like it's flip sides. It's like on the one side, it's you're really driven and you're really going to get stuff done. But on the other hand, maybe that makes you, overly focused on the goal and not a good communicator, for example.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more direct because I think being direct is really good, but it's actually not really good for everybody. And not everybody wants to hear it at the end of the day.
Like, I'm trying to think the number one bit of feedback. This is going to shock you, Beatrice. The number one thing that I've been told in several jobs. Brace yourself.
I am bracing myself.
Is that I'm not very good at taking criticism.
Oh, really?
Of my work, yeah. But you know
Not
what?
of your work. I don't think you're... Oh.
I honestly think, right, so there was a job that I had that I remember I got taken in. We used to have like our, what are they called? Reviews every 6 months or something. And I had a review and I was basically told that whenever I get criticism, I look really pissed off and like I don't take it very well. And I was literally like, I honestly just think that's my face. Like, I think basically, I mean, like, who takes criticism and goes, great? You know what I mean? Like, I think I more get frustrated because I'm like, shit, like, it's annoying me that I didn't get that right. Or it's annoying me
the other
that's
thing is, like,
down, you know
your
what I mean?
job and my job are very subjective. So you can give me criticism, but I might not agree with you. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's another thing too, is people can criticize things, like, and unless it's truly like, and it's based on a business decision and it's based on.
Well, so this was more when I was a sub, I think.
Okay.
So it was more like, you're taking too long to do this, or, this shouldn't be such a complicated task, or this is something that you should be able to do. Mostly, I think it was time where I would sometimes get bogged down in trying to find like the perfect headline or the perfect photograph or something. And then it would take an hour and a half where it should take 20 minutes. So I think that was more where the criticism was coming from.
But didn't you also around that time have a couple of bosses who maybe, like, some of it is also the relationship you have with your boss, like, didn't you also have somebody who, like, no matter, wanted to do it themselves? You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who get promoted, or like you start working for them, but they can't get out of the job they were in. So they get promoted and they're not really sure what that new job is. Because, like, who tells you? Like, you get this new title on a Thursday, and who tells you now you should do X, Y, and Z? You're supposed to automatically know, but you're still, like, it's really, really hard to step away from the job you were previously doing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't think I would be a very good delegator at all, because I think a lot of the time when I think about, I remember for a while when I was being an influencer and I was very busy, I thought about maybe I should hire somebody for one day a week to do my admin stuff. And then I was like, I just would spend the whole time going, I could just do that. Like, it's just quicker for me to do that email.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would be good at delegating. And I think I definitely had a few bosses who had us, and
Poor boys. They have obviously been warned to stay in the bedroom under pain of death. Oh my God.
He is going to be a brutal babysitter.
Oh yeah, you're right. But it was so funny when I said, Rosemary, come over to the podcast, and they all went, yes, we're going to get to go up to lock in the bedrooms and we'll play on our devices. Yes.
Little creeps.
I know, it's a gorgeous day as well. And they all sat outside and looked like I literally had subjected them to some, I don't even know, like, day in the tundra. I put them, admittedly, I sat outside with a blanket under me, on me. So,
I mean, it's not that warm today, but I went for a walk with Brandon and the boys and the dog to the corner. So it takes literally 3 minutes, right? The two boys. William was pushing his pram with his two plushies in it, right? Finn was pushing his shopping cart. We get to the end of the road and William goes, I want to go home, my back hurts.
My back, I empathise with that when I walk too much.
3 minutes, Beatrice.
Now, is this the same plushie that was in the dog's mouth?
No, that was my plushie.
You were telling me you moved over here, you brought no furniture, no bedding, no anything, but you brought your plushie to put in bed with between you and Brandon. That's lovely. That's lovely.
It's not a plushie, it's a large tiger teddy.
You should have put the phone into the plushie that night I called you.
Oh my God. So, okay, I think we need to give a bit of background on this, right? How are we talking about Smothered again?
I know, well, it had a lot of good content in just 6 episodes.
So there's an episode of Smothered, which is an excellent highbrow show about the psychology of mother-daughter relationships.
Correct.
The forging of basically it's about mums and daughters who have weird super close relationships. Right? Weird mums and daughters with super, super close relationships. And in this one particular episode, every night before going to bed, the mother would call the daughter and the daughter would put her phone on speaker. And the mom would basically lull her to sleep by going, night, night, honey pie, good night. Oh, it's getting dark. The stars are lighting up the sky. You're going to have a wonderful night. Wasn't that it? Like,
yeah, 100%. And the boyfriend just lay there, like, on his phone, looking like this was entirely normal. So when Rosemary moved in with Brandon,
not even reacting.
No, he didn't even look. Well, I mean,
just goes to show it happens all the time.
Well, exactly. It was obviously a nightly occurrence. So when Rosemary moved in with Brandon, we decided that we would do this. That Rosemary would turn her phone on speaker and I would call and like sing her to sleep.
We literally and we had this plotted for
good month.
A good month, yes. And we talked about, okay, you're like, I'm going to ring you and I'll say goodnight and then I'll just put the phone down on speaker and then you start reading me a bedtime story.
We're absolutely useless because every night I'd be like, God, can we do it tonight? Oh no, it's 8:30 and I'm going to bed.
Yeah. No, I'm wrecked. No, I can't. No, like Brandon's in a really bad mood. He's not going to find this funny, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually when we got to do it,
I had to beg you. I was like, please, can we do it tonight? I was like, I am on form. I've got this tonight. I am ready to do it. And you were like, oh, I'm really tired and Brandon's not in the mood. And I said, just put your phone. He doesn't need to be in the mood. Put your phone on speaker and put it between the two of you. And I will start talking.
And let me tell you what Brandon heard through the phone. Well, first he could feel me in the bed beside him, absolutely I had turned my back to him because I knew I couldn't face him, and I was trying to keep myself still, but I was obviously laughing. So the bed was going like rock, 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 rock. As I was like, and then all you heard down the phone was, and it was like you were trying to stay quiet.
I couldn't even breathe. I was trying to stay quiet so that he wouldn't get wind of what was about to happen. I was trying to say like, "Good night, Rosemary."
She did not get a single syllable out of that mouth. Not even,
went on for
not
like
even
10
the good
minutes.
of good night. The 2
10
of us,
minutes of just
I
pure
was
silence.
crying. Like, Brandon off as well. After about 20 seconds, turns around and is like, what the is going on? And I'm there like shaking. You're on the other end of the phone going...
Also shaking. I actually had like absolute killer stomach cramps.
Oh my God.
You know, we should try it again.
Amazing.
Guarantee he'll have forgotten in about a month. We should do it again.
He's forgotten already. What
Yeah, we should do
There's
it
no
again.
way we're ever going to be able to do it.
I am
We can barely
absolutely
even
gonna do
talk about it now without laughing.
We'll definitely do it. Oh, I will absolutely do it. I'll get myself into... I have decided it's mind over matter. That was something I decided. I think I mentioned this before. I was like, I'm going to get control of my emotions. They're only a figment of my imagination. I read about it again today.
Did
my
you read
John
the same book
Connolly
twice by accident?
No, thank you. In my John Connolly book, I'll find the page for you now in a minute, and it basically talks about... What does he say? Hold on while I find this now. Hold on.
She brought a book.
Well, no, I was reading it here before you got here. Hold on.
Whole new levels of research.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
TG.
Chapter 7. John Connolly. Internationally best-selling author, Irish, The Woman in the Woods. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your own estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any time. That's basically it.
That's like the ex-boyfriend who said to me, listen, you being upset has nothing to do with me. It's how you're reacting to my words.
Oh, 100% true. I mean, it's
This
your
was
reacting.
literally after he just told me I looked horrendous.
It's you reacting to his crap words, but like it is to do with him. But I mean, the fact that you're upset is not to do with him. The fact that he's a dick is to do with him, right?
Anyway, what I was
The
going to
fact that
say...
you're with him is to do with you.
Listen. Okay, I'm sorry I brought that up.
Okay.
What I was going to say was I definitely had a few bosses who had a certain expectation of like a high level of telepathy.
I was about to say, but no ability to communicate it, right?
Yes.
That's
So they
that's
kind of
actually
go
really hard, like explaining the why. I think that's something that
Yeah.
people do really badly.
Yeah, and I
including
mean-
including me, just to be clear.
We've definitely mentioned it before on this podcast, haven't we, though? But like, I really feel for people who suddenly find themselves in managerial positions with zero training
Yeah.
on how to manage people or how to delegate or how to even break something down, because there is an art
But really,
to...
there's no training for any job you go into. You know, you join and you've the
True.
only training you've ever gotten is your training in college and your training on the job. And so that's why, like, very often people say you have to do the job before we'll promote you, which seems really unfair because you're then doing this
Yeah.
heavy lift. But at the same time, if you can't prove to me you can do it, I can't necessarily trust to give you the job because you may not know how
on
to
the-
do
on
it,
the
right?
basis of trust.
Because there's no training for it, basically. So maybe I should actually figure out how to train you for the job, and then I could give it
I
to
mean,
you.
there
knowing that you're
definitely
good
are
enough.
some jobs where there's training. I'm sure,
Well,
like,
yes.
you
I
know,
mean, I'm talking about my own experience.
yeah, and mine too. Like, there are definitely jobs. I mean, like, I've done jobs as well where it's been like your first 3 days will be training, but it's more like,
But I'm like,
here's
in
how
3
you get
days,
into
like,
this
I'm
system.
talking about, yeah, exactly. You're taught how to use the processes.
Yeah,
you're taught
yeah.
how to use the computer programs. I'm
Yeah,
talking
to use
more
the
about like
software.
how to go about the day to day of your job. Right? It's different.
Yeah. God, jobs are hard.
Jobs are hard, right? And also, like, it's hard that, I mean, if there were no people jobs, it'd be easy because, like, it's not actually the job itself that's usually hard. It's the negotiating
the
and the
people.
collaborating with everybody around you. Like, I remember,
And
I
the
think I said this
politics.
before. I said to Dad, like, you know, you wouldn't understand, Dad. Like, creative people are just this. He's like, I work in computers and everybody's also nuts. Like, it's people. People are just really hard because
Yeah.
you kind of assume that you're all there with the same agenda, but at the end of the day, you're not, right? Like, my agenda could be entirely personal to me, you know?
Well, we could all be there with the same agenda, but the same agenda might be to advance our own careers.
Well, no, I mean more like a unified agenda. Like, you assume that you're there trying to do the best possible job you can for the company, but in fact, some people are just there to get you out of the way so they can get promoted.
I mean, are a lot of people in companies now trying to do the best possible job for the company, do you think?
Hopefully.
That's why I've always been crap at working for people.
Is that why? Now tell me,
Well,
Rosemary,
that
when
and
you're
my inability to take criticism.
and your inability to actually focus for 8 hours. Maybe you are more like
my
both than we
God.
think.
I can focus for 8 hours, right?
On
They
TV?
can't all
On
be
Love
together.
Island?
No. I can do like an hour and a half of work and then I need to take an hour and a half off. And like I can work until 10 or 11 and I frequently do, but I cannot now. And I honestly think it's from being freelance. I think it's broken me.
100% from being freelance, because I'm like, anybody could work until 10 or 11, except sadly they have kids, they have like stuff to do.
That's not really what I meant. I meant like I've no problem with doing 8 hours of work in the stretch of a day. I just can't do it all together.
Oh, right. Well,
that's what I meant.
Probably shouldn't have said that. Okay. So when you're interviewing Rosemary, though, I was wondering about this. So somebody I know was interviewing recently and kept it extremely secret. And it reminded me of and I even mentioned the girl who lived with me, like my very good friend who didn't tell me she was interviewing, but that was just nuts. But I then remembered when I was in Paris, I was interviewing at DVF, right? Diamond Furstenberg. And I confided in one of my colleagues and I said, oh yeah, I'm going over and I'm to New York. And it was like, I mean, that was a hard one to hide.
Did you just pretend you were going on a holiday?
I think I took a Friday off and then I hoped nobody would see me in the airport, and I went from like a Thursday night till a Sunday night.
Oh, grim.
Yeah, because it was really hard to get time off. Like, I mean, in hindsight, I feel like with any of these jobs, you just be like, hey, I need 3 days off. See you. You know, it's none of your business what I'm doing. But at the time, I was like super paranoid. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have. I mean, would they have put two and two together? Yes, if they'd seen me at the airport.
But it's hard as well, because when you work with people, like nobody ever really goes, I'm going on holiday, full stop. You go, oh, where are you going? Who are you going with?
Yeah.
Like, how long are you going for? What are you going to do? Are you going to go to this restaurant? Like, we all chat and we're all close. I mean, ideally, we're close to people we work with. So it's really hard to suddenly be like, oh, I'm just off tomorrow.
But also when you're in a job, like you get really bogged down or like attached to that job, you know, and it's hard to step back and kind of go, well, if I lose this job, I mean, this sounds really privileged, but like before I had kids, before I was married, when it was just me by myself, if I lose this job, I'll get another job. You know, it may not be as good of a job, but I'll get another job. I'm employable, or I'll move home to my parents, you know.
Yeah.
But you get super caught up in like, nobody can know I'm interviewing. If they find out I'm interviewing, they'll fire me. Like, they're not going to fire you. You know what I mean? They might think to themselves, I'm not going to promote her next March, whatever.
Yeah. And they might not bother giving you the raise that they're giving you next week or whatever.
But you get super like wrapped up in this, like, and you know, the handing in your notice is always the worst possible. Like, I'm going to vomit. I'm so nervous.
Oh my God, horrific.
But anyway, so I said to this girl that I was working with, I said, I'm interviewing with them, Diamond Furstenberg. I'm going on Thursday and blah. And anyway, I can't remember what happened, but my interview got changed to like 2 weeks later. And I didn't see her again. Like, we were out having drinks when I told her this, and I didn't see her again. She was like, oh wow, that's amazing, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see her again, but I still took the Friday off because I had it planned, and I was like, Grant, you know, I'll go shopping or just take the day off and relax. And then I had to go to New York then the following like Friday week. And you know, it's like, I hadn't booked the flight, like they book it for you, etc.
Yeah.
So it wasn't me kind of booking flights and stuff. And anyway, I arrived at DVF for my interview, and I was sitting downstairs in the lobby with my portfolio waiting to go up and meet the HR team and all that kind of stuff. Who sachets through the lobby? The same girl that I had confided in, that I was working with in Paris, sachets through the lobby with her portfolio in hand.
So she was interviewing as well and just hadn't said, oh, I'm interviewing too.
Yeah. I was like, people are nuts. People are actually nuts. And then she got the job, and we got the job too. Myself and Julie both got this job at Diamond Furstenberg to set up the accessories team, but Julie wasn't with me. I went over for this interview. We'd met with Diane in Paris
when she made you sit on the floor.
Exactly. And then we couldn't both take time off. You know, it was that was really hard as well, because as a team, we were really into this idea. Like, there's so many male teams out there, you know, who are hired for, and there were so few female teams. And the funny thing was, everybody was always like, you're obviously a couple. You just don't want to be, you know, you don't want to be separated. You're obviously a romantic couple. We were like, no, we're just friends, and we want to work together. Like, we think we have a lot to offer as a duo kind of thing. And also, if you're setting up an entire department from nothing, you're going to need more than one person anyway. You're going to need about 8 people, but they're like, we'll do it with 2. They felt like this was a major investment, you know, instead of like in a normal company, you'd be like, well, we need 4 people for this.
Like, yeah.
So anyway, and then we never really spoke to her again, because it was just so bizarre. Like, we had confided in her, and she had taken the confidence, and then never, like, even in the intervening weeks, and she didn't see me, was the thing. She sashayed by up the stairs, sashayed
and
out.
so you didn't say anything to her?
I didn't say anything to her. I immediately called Julie. But I was like, what is the story? Like, people are weird.
I interviewed for a job in Dublin a couple of years ago, and I didn't get it. I mean, I was going to go, why didn't I get it? I mean, loads of reasons, I'm sure. But I was living with a girl at the time who had also applied for the same job and hadn't got an interview. And I remember when I got the interview, she was raging. And like the same way I would have been if she had got it and I hadn't. You know what I mean? Like she was
Raging. I love that word.
No, she was raging. And she
That's
was
not a word they use here. Like when I say I am raging, it's like, oh my God, are you really?
Oh my
I'm
God.
like,
Because I spoke to somebody today and they looked really blank at me. I was like, what's wrong with them?
I mean, they really think you're like actually raging.
Oh.
It's brilliant.
Well, they just take everything very
I say it in the office. I am raging over this.
but anyway, she basically kept saying to me, I just don't understand how you got it and I did, which is kind of insulting as well.
Kind of.
Like, okay, you can like calm down on that. So anyway, I went for my interview and I remember when I came home, it was as if she'd had this complete what do they call
volte-face.
Volte-face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Turnabout face, right?
Oh, yeah, but I thought it was Italian, so it'd be volte-face.
Volte-face. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's face anyway at the end, I think.
Anyway, she'd had a complete about turn and was like really
said.
nice and was really nice, but was asking me like, how did I think it went and blah blah blah, and you know,
you were highly suspicious, I'm assuming.
No, of course I wasn't. I was just like, oh, she's being really nice, and you know, she's kind of got over it, and we're just chatting about it.
And
so
what happened?
I told her everything, and I was like, oh, they asked me this and they asked me that, and she's like, I'm like, what did they ask about this and blah blah. And then at the end of the conversation, I actually think this was on the bus on the way home from the interview because she had texted me and said, call me when you finish and let me know how it went. And I was like, oh, that's nice because we were friends as well. And at the very end, she goes, I actually got contacted to have an interview on Monday. And I was really annoyed because I would have told her everything anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have held it back and I would have happily helped her going like may the best woman win kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was so pissed off that
Did
she
either
hadn't
one of you
told
get
me.
the job?
No, we didn't. Thank God. I would have been in
You would have been raging. Actual red
raging,
mist. Proper raging. Yeah.
Yeah. My God, I would have been murderous.
That's ridiculous. But you know, I wonder as well, like in hindsight, I now wonder if maybe she didn't tell me because maybe she was superstitious, because that's something that I don't feel like superstition about jobs, but I also was
Beatrice,
nuts.
I think a lot of people, probably most people, are more strategic about a lot of things in life, including jobs. But I don't
think that's strategic. I think that's like insecurity, because I like, to your point, may the best woman win. Like, I don't feel the need to, like, there are many jobs out there, like, that may be my dream job, right? But like, if you're going to get, it's like I'm not going to be super jealous if somebody leaves me. I mean, I'll be heartbroken potentially, but like, if he wants to leave me, he doesn't want to be with me. I don't need to keep him.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's like, I think this is really bizarre, and it makes me think about, even today I was talking with Dawn about, I read a thing about internships, and it made me think about, you know, very often people are raging, like they go to an interview and they kind of say, here, give us a look at your portfolio. And it's happened to me too. They then take your portfolio off into the photocopying room and they photocopy it. And there's this whole thing about 6 months after I interviewed with, you know, X brand, my jacket showed up on the runway, and I'm like, well, you know, great, then you should take a picture of it and put it into your portfolio, right? If you can actually genuinely have the sketch to say, yeah, I sketched this and I shared it, and they were obviously inspired by it. Or like, if you literally only have the number of ideas in your portfolio, you're not going to be successful anyway. You know, I mean, I get that it's not nice, right? Like, it's very underhand. But at the end of the day, those ideas in your portfolio are dead ideas. Like, you're not going to get a job and then be asked to cart everything out of your portfolio and produce it. You know what I mean? You're going to be asked to start doing new things.
Yeah.
So like, you might as well just consider those. Whereas we are all so precious, you know, when we leave college, we're like, these are my golden ideas.
Yeah. I mean, that happens as well a lot in journalism. Like when you pitch a piece to a magazine or a newspaper, and then you'll suddenly see the piece a couple of weeks later and one of their staff writers will have done it. And like, it's totally wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's totally underhanded. But it happens all the time. It's really infuriating. But you're just like,
I guarantee you, though, you've said this to me before, I guarantee you half the time they read it in your portfolio.
Oh, forgot about it.
And they entirely forgot about it. Like, because I mean, they see so many things, and just like all of us read so many things. And I guarantee you it's like an osmosal, it's not even a word, you know, adoption of your idea that then gets regurgitated later on. They're probably patting themselves on the back for their
10 days later, they're like, I had the most incredible idea.
I went to bed last night. I mean, we probably all do it. I don't do it. You probably do it. You're a writer.
I'm sure I do.
I mean, I'm telling you, I've given you a couple of ideas and you've come up to me later on and said, I've had a great idea for an article.
Literally, this is because you give me 50 article suggestions per week.
I do, yeah. I love
49 of which I ignore, and then inevitably one of them will pop up again a couple of weeks later in my brain.
I actually love how like irate I am. I send you all these ideas. I'm like, can't believe she didn't write any of these. These were great ideas. And then I said to you, should I write a book? Like, should I? And you sent me like 29 chapters, and I was like, oh God, that's a lot. I literally just closed the email. I was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure.
It is, but I mean, it is really overwhelming sometimes when you're like sometimes I'll ask people, like, do you have any suggestions for what I should write for my Patreon? And it's usually like for my Patreon that was due 2 hours ago, right? That was meant to go up.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh my God, I'm excellent. Somebody will go, why don't you write some, like, you're very good for this actually, like, why don't you write something about something very involved that will involve interviewing somebody, reading an entire book, and like watching a documentary? And I'm like, no, I want something that I can literally pull out of my bottom at this very moment.
Useless. I mean, no offense, because I'll go, what about that thing you wrote the other day that you shared with me that I shared with my office? Like, because so since lockdown started, I started doing this thing I'm calling a daily update, where I didn't do it all last week. I totally forgot about it, right? Because I just feel like it got to be too much. But every day I write, like, here's a topic, and it was kind of supposed to be a distraction for people at the beginning. Like, here's stuff you could do, here's resources online. And then as this became not so much of a like, hey, you know, this is a novelty and we're about to emerge the other side, it was more like,
this is our life now.
Yeah, this is our life, and here's some distraction from all the crap. Yeah. And I even everybody has guested on it. Liam, our editor, has guested on it. My dad has done a guest spot writing about his gyrocopter.
Our mom has as well, hasn't he?
Mom wrote one about Pavarotti, which we could actually share. The review was brilliant.
Oh my God.
She wrote a review of Pavarotti, the film that she went to see multiple times in the cinema.
Like, literally, she hates the cinema. This is the only film she's ever, I'd say, seen and enjoyed seeing.
Oh, no. She enjoyed seeing that thing, A Silent Thread, with Daniel Day-Lewis. What's it called?
Oh, Phantom Thread, A Silent Thread. You know what else she enjoyed? The chorus.
Oh God, that was brilliant though.
Those
That French
little-
movie.
those
And
little
she
French
also, they were
choristers.
brilliant. And she also enjoyed, what was the one with Emma Thompson?
Sense and Sensibility.
No, the one after that. There was another one with Hugh Grant where he was like not the good guy, where he was a creep. Was it Persuasion? Did I just make that up?
If it was, I haven't seen it. I don't know.
You definitely have. Anyway, and she went, she loved Pride and Prejudice as well with Hugh Darcy. When he not whatever his name is, Hugh Darcy's not even his name.
You keep talking
your
about
man.
this like we saw this in the cinema. This was the BBC series that we watched at home. When he
what was
hops out of the lake.
Well, then what was the what was the one that we watched in the cinema where all the women, like the middle-aged women, were giggling, and Mom was like turned around to me with like a raised eyebrow, and then when she was like, "Oh, he's so handsome."
I have no idea.
Oh, she's got.
Anyway, sorry. In honor of our mother, and we have, I mean, seriously, there has to be an episode soon where we don't talk about Mom.
I think you're just obsessed with Mom.
I'm absolutely obsessed with her, my twin. In honor of Mom and her Pavarotti obsession, I just thought I'd read out the review that she wrote for Beatrice's Daily Update. So I usually write the reviews, and they're in the format of "So You Haven't Seen."
Even before The Guardian did that, we were doing it. The Guardian started a "So You Haven't Seen" movies thing during lockdown.
Oh, did they?
Yes, and then I was like, oh my God, we should be on The Guardian, but we're not.
Oh, no, we're not. So You Haven't Seen Pavarotti. The opening scene of this movie shows the quote-unquote larger-than-life character, in brackets, in more ways than one, trying to convince us that opera should be made available to the general masses and not simply for the elite. A lot of archive footage is used in the making of this film, along with excerpts from several operas and concerts. And the crowds go wild. Beatrice, stop laughing. There's little insight into his private life other than the amount of food he consumes. He loves cooking, Italian food, of course. We are brought to Modena. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
The place of his birth, where we meet his parents, he is an only child, and see the venues where he started out. In his younger days, he and his dad sang every week at the church service.
So cute.
To spend 2 hours listening to perhaps the best tenor in the world was sheer bliss. 2 hours, say she spent about 10 at this stage. This was definitely one of the most enjoyable afternoons I ever spent, and I went again the following week. If you like nice music, this is a quote-unquote must-see.
And then you have to go down to the star, the asterisk.
The asterisk says, today's guest contributor is my mother, Claire McCabe, who wrote this review unwillingly, must be noted. Quote-unquote, this is worse than being back at school. I asked for a chicken recipe too. Apparently Pavarotti eats 2 at a sitting, but was denied. You'll have to make do with ice cream. So sorry, after that job interview related segue.
Anyway, the point was, so since this, I've been doing these, daily updates. And then Rosemary will text me, oh my God, need piece for Patreon. And I go, what about the entire daily update that you wrote? And you're like, oh no, it's not. And I go, it's totally perfect. And like, you have a movie review and you have this. Oh yeah, I suppose I could do that. So you actually do an awful lot of writing that you disregard as being useful. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think it's because if I'm writing for your daily update, I very much have a different audience in mind, which is like your colleagues and also an American audience. And you know what I mean? So it just feels like feels like writing completely, it feels like something completely different.
I think that's in your head because they don't understand half of what you write.
Yeah, that's my truth, Beatrice, in my head.
Oh my God. So Rosemary, tell me about any jobs that you've taken. Any job interviews you didn't get, that one that you just mentioned there.
Oh yeah, that one. I mean, I think from the ages of about 16 to 28, I was excellent at job interviews. Got every single job interview I ever went for. I went for a job interview for a supermarket in Ireland that I was about to name, but won't for reasons that will become apparent in a moment. And I got the job. And I remember then they called me in for, I think they were calling it an induction. And I had previously worked in like...
Sounds like Scientology, honestly.
I'd previously worked in Spar and I'd previously worked in a golf club. And I thought the induction would just be a bit like, here's your name tag and here's this and here's that. So I had plans for the rest of the night. So I was like, I'm going to go for my induction for 20 minutes and then I'm going to go off and watch.
I can't.
Probably like
Mother could hear this now.
Probably like play Grand Theft Auto with my mates in the apartment next door. Because I fancied all of them, obviously.
Oh my God.
Of course I did. Anyway, so I went down for the induction and it was 3 hours, right? And
it's not actually that long. Okay, but you did just say a minute ago you can't do more than an hour and a half, like consecutively.
Of anything, no. It's true. Except for watching Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
But, so it was in this office and it was 3 hours. But like, look, aside from it being 3 hours, I just feel like they should have said, come down for the induction from 6 until 9. You know what I mean? As in,
no, I don't. More. Like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Like I don't really get the big deal here.
Oh my God, I had plans, Beatrice. I was a college student. Anyways, so listen, I went down for the induction.
Was this a part-time job now or a full-time job?
Part-time.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Went down for the induction, sat down, started talking about all the different rules and how every time you went in and out of the building, you'd have to have your bag searched. And every time you went in and out of the toilet, you'd have to have your bag searched. And every time, and there was a big emphasis on your bag could be searched at any point, your locker could be searched at any point, your this could be searched at any point. So this, in combination with the fact that I wanted to go and play Grand Theft Auto, I was just like, this is not the job.
Were you afraid they were going to take your Diet Cokes and your French plats, your pecan plats, out of your bag? If they saw how many you had at the bottom of it.
Imagine the embarrassment.
What were you thinking was going to be in your bag that was going to be so bad?
No, I wasn't thinking anything. I was actually just thinking, I just don't think this sounds like a nice place to work. I was like, this just sounds awful. Like, just, I think because I'd never worked anywhere where everyone hadn't been mates, if you know what I mean. Everyone hadn't been really nice. This was obviously, it was a big supermarket, you know what I mean? It was a big place. And I know now, like, that I'm a bit older. You know, I was probably 20.
Yeah, I was at the time. A bit older, okay.
Yeah, a good bit older. You know, I realised this is how these things work. But at the time, I was like, this just sounds awful and really, like, you know,
it does sound. I have to say, it does sound kind of awful. Like going to the toilet, you have to have your bag searched. Are you making that up?
No.
That's a bit nuts.
If you brought a bag with you anywhere,
okay,
like to the toilet, out the door,
what about your
to
tampons?
Lunch?
Like not to get too personal.
Listen, not
well,
without my tampons.
They could go in a pocket.
So they could be in my hand.
I suppose that's never good. Well, I put them down my bra all the time. And then I forget they're there and they're really uncomfortable when I discover them later on that evening.
When I worked in Stay City last year, I tried to make a point of just carrying them in my hand the same way I'd carry my phone. And if they were visible, they were visible. Because I was just suddenly going, they're fucking periods. Like, it's not a big deal. If somebody sees I'm bringing a tampon to the toilet, I actually don't care. I mean, I do care. I'm horrified.
No, I just read a thing.
But I also
just read a review. I just read a thing today about like TV shows you should watch. And I was thinking we should watch these. And it's that one. Is it not? No, Call Me By Your Name is that other Italian movie. There are 2 TV shows. One has Billy Piper and one is, I can't remember. But basically they talk about how in these shows, like casually, one of the girls puts like a panty liner into her, you know, underwear. Or they talk about periods, or there's like tampons visible, and I was, and they were like, "This is not weird, you know." But it's weird to see it on TV at the same time. Like it's weird to have it normalized because we pretend that this doesn't happen, and yet it's such a massive pain. Just like the Tampax ad in Ireland, like super sexy. I don't know a single person who's like, "God, my period is so sexy."
So sexy.
Yeah, I feel super sexy about my period.
Yeah, like the only time you ever see periods mentioned on TV and film is when it's a plot device, when it's like something really calamitous and embarrassing has happened, or she's got her period in bed with someone,
things
or
have happened to me, but like they're never plot devices. It's always just a disaster, and I have to change my clothes. All right.
So no, I'm sorry.
I thought you were finished.
No, I'm telling you. So I then said to you, I then put my hand up. Jesus Christ! I was in this supermarket.
Was there a tampon in this hand?
No, I was in the supermarket. I was being told my bag was going to be searched. My Grand Theft Auto time was ticking away.
Yeah.
And I put my hand up and I said,
plots were burning a hole in the bag.
Put my hand up. Can you just pipe down for 10 minutes while I finish the story?
Piping hot.
I wish I could turn your mic off. If only I had that power. So anyway, I put my hand up and I said, listen, I was like, I'm really sorry now
to be.
Fuck off.
Did you say that? No wonder
no,
you didn't get the
I'm
job.
saying that to you.
Oh.
I had already got the job at this point.
Oh, you did?
I'd already got the job. This was the induction for the job.
Induction? Is that the right word?
Yes.
It sounds like...
This was like you were...
It sounds like you're about to be vacuum packed into something and put on a shelf.
It is the induction.
I'm sure it is. It just
Anyway,
sounds extremely
sorry,
ominous.
if I could vacuum pack your mouth right now. Just stop talking for 3 minutes, right? Not even 10, 3. I put up my hand, I said, I'm really sorry to have wasted your time, but I really don't think that this is going to be a good fit for me. I don't think this is going to be for me. And your one in front of a room of about 12 like new hires went, could you explain to me why?
Dead right, Rosemary. You put your hand up in front of the room of 12.
But I also felt like
a jury of your peers.
Why.
A jury of your peers.
That's why. What I actually said
I'd like everybody to note that Rosemary just gave me a very sassy finger. That's why.
What I actually said was, I just don't think it would be a good fit. And she was like, why not? And I was like, I just don't think it would be good.
Can I ask you a question? Like, do you think she did say that? Or playground? You're obsessed with this. Do you think she did say, why not? Or do you think she said, why not? In a kind of friendly...
No, I think she was really pissed off.
I hate that word, maternal.
No, I think she was like, I think she was pissed off at being interrupted because she was probably like, she didn't want to be there on the Wednesday night, 6 to 9, doing this induction.
She had places to go and grand thefts
to auto.
To do, to auto. Oh, I'm horrified, Rosemary. I'm horrified. Go ahead.
But then I got a great job in a record store and I felt like I was living my best Empire Records life.
My friend Linda, other second friend, who will be mentioned
How
on
dare
this
you bring
podcast,
this up?
My friend Linda met her husband in Tower Records in the square. Do you remember?
It wasn't Tower Records, it was HMV.
Oh,
your friend Linda
I thought
met
it was
her.
Tower Records.
No, it was HMV, Beatrice. It wasn't Tower Records in the square.
Oh yeah, right. You're right.
Your friend Linda met her husband in the same HMV.
You're right.
Where the girl worked with whom my
cheated.
ex-boyfriend had an affair. No, she didn't cheat. He cheated.
He cheated.
He cheated on me with her.
Him cheat.
He made himself
He didn't want to cheat. She made him cheat.
Listen, there's nothing to do with her, but I'm just saying. He was cheating on me with someone who worked in HMV.
Yeah, and Linda knew it.
Linda knew it all along.
Did
never
Linda
told
know
me.
it?
Yes, apparently.
Oh my God, sorry, Linda. I didn't know you knew it. Did she really?
I think afterwards
Linda,
Linda said she thought she knew something was going on. Or
I am horrible. Well, Linda wasn't interested. Linda was only interested in matrimonial potential, and she knew that this boyfriend of yours was obviously not a matrimonial prospect. So she just didn't. She was doing you a favour.
A matrimonial prospect.
Correct. Doing you a favour. Little did she know it would take you 22 more years to find somebody willing to. Moving on. So, Rosemary, I was wondering...
That was the meanest thing you have ever said to me on this podcast.
No, it wasn't.
On this podcast,
it wasn't.
It's pretty mean.
No, it was a joke. And you knew it was a joke. You laughed. You laughed. Audience, she laughed so much and then she pretended not to laugh.
She laughed so much and then Liam edited it out.
Yeah, exactly. That reminds me though, when I lived in Milan, I was horrified by your lack of...
Can you put that pencil down?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was horrified by your lack of professionalism there until I remembered when I was in Milan, I got a job at Max Mara.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah,
Mom was horrified.
Yes, because Mother was sending me €50 a week, right, to live on.
Those were the days you could live on €50 a week.
Fab. It was fab. I mean, I was not rich, readers. Right.
You were not rich. No.
I was not rich. I had this €50 that Mom and Dad were sending me, and I think that's it. Like, I mean, I was working in a pub, and I got this job.
€50 in 1982 is worth about $3,000 now.
But I feel 1982. Are you joking? You absolute weapon. That took me a second.
It was like you were trying to work it out. No, it wouldn't be that much.
No, I was actually calculating how much it would have been worth. It's probably worth about €75 now. But anyway,
it's probably about 100 now.
Not even. Rosemary.
No, but I mean, if you think about the price of things, everything's gone.
If I think about how much
up.
salaries still are over there, like in Italy, they're
Italy,
still pretty low.
Fair.
Anyway, so €50, and I got this. So I went in there. I was like feeling very much like I better go and get a job so that Mom and Dad don't have to send me money anymore, or I could secretly not tell them. Well, I could secretly not tell them and pocket all the cash. No, I obviously told her. I told her. So I got this. I went to a Max Mara shop, and I got a job as like a shop assistant, right?
I actually can't believe you got a job in Max Mara.
I know, I can't either, honestly. And I had my mohawk hair at the time, and I had my lip ring, right? And I arrived along the first day, and I'd been out with my friend. I had friends who'd stayed, college friends had come to visit the night before, and we had all gone out and gotten absolutely pie-eyed.
Oh,
We'd been up till about 5 a.m.
Sorry, Beatrice.
Yeah.
I feel like, for the sake of our listeners, you must clarify what you mean by mohawk hair.
Oh, I had like a very small mohawk.
Did you have the sides shaved though?
Yeah.
With the sides. Oh, I always thought you just pinned it up.
No, I had the side shaved and I had like a long bit on top. I have a picture somewhere. find it. I mean, it was cute. It was a cute moho, but it wasn't very Max Mara-esque, I'd have to admit. Anyway, and I went in the first day and I was so dying and hungover, and I had to go into the storage closet about 100 times.
I'm
just
sure
to
they were
actually,
like, this one was
well, there was nothing to do the entire day. There were like 2 people came in. And then, which I had never anticipated, even though I'd lived in Milan now at this point for about a year. And then, like, at 12:30, they kick you out and they're like, come back at 3:30 when we reopen, because they have this massive lunch hour.
Yeah.
So I was basically wandering around this park, hung over to bits. Like, I got my lunch, I sat down, I ate it, I wanted to sleep, but there's nowhere to sleep. I had to wait 3 hours. I was like death warmed up by the time I got back to the shop. And then I had to like fold a couple of cashmere jackets, you know, smile at the
and
one.
You're not a great folder.
I'm actually not. Well, I'm no. I mean, I'm whatever. Anyway, and like literally there were only 2 customers who came in during the whole day, and of course there were already 3 shop assistants.
Yeah.
And so like,
And they were all probably way better than you, and you were hungover.
I don't know if they were better, but of course
They
they
were
were better,
definitely
and
better.
they could speak Italian. And the minute like these people came in, they all would like make a beeline for them and then throw daggers to me. So I just went back out to the storage closet and looked like, you know, leaned on some scaffolding and wanted to take a nap. And then at the end of the day, your woman goes to me, she goes, could I speak to you, Beatrice? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I was like, I mean, I'm not even joking. I still remember that all these years later as being the absolute longest day of my life ever. Even now, it's like if a day is long, I just think it's not as long as that day. And she goes, unfortunately, she goes, this lip ring that you have in is not going to, you know, it's not really within our brand standards. Children's running cross. It's not really within our brand standards, and I'm going to have to ask you to take it out before you come back tomorrow. And I was like, thank God. And I said, I wouldn't be able to take it out. That just goes against everything I stand for. So I'm just not going to be able to come back tomorrow. Thanks a million though for the opportunity. And I left, and I was so
It's English or Italian?
relieved. I mean, in Italian. I'm sure it was more like, thank you, but cannot. Goodbye.
Right. This goes against everything I believe in. Thank you. No.
You're such a bint. Oh yeah, I love the way you bring the reality to everything. Anyway, so I left.
It's just like that's a very advanced sentence.
No, and
to
I
be saying
called
Italian.
Mom, and she was raging.
Oh my God, she
actually
was
raging.
so
raging.
horrified.
She was
literally
raging.
I actually remember her getting off the phone and being like, "Can you believe?" She was like, "I can't. Can you believe what Beatrice is just?" Like,
I mean,
oh my
obviously,
God,
I
it was
didn't tell
amazing.
Mom I was hungover, right? So this is probably going to be sorry, Mom. Mom, I'm extremely sorry because I wasn't trying to take money from you, but I appreciate you, Mom and Dad.
Did I ever tell you about the time that Mom and Dad sent me like €300 for a trip to Achill with college?
Was it for really nice jeans? Probably.
No, it was to go to Achill
Oh, that must have been
on
nice.
a college trip. I think it was with my English class or something, and I didn't go and just spent the money.
Are you joking? Such a brat. Got all the treats and was the absolute brat.
It wasn't Achill, it was the Aran Islands, and I've still never been to a single Aran Island.
Actually horrifying. Do they know about this?
They do now. I just
Unbelievable.
thought that'd help you, that'd take the shine
It
off your
doesn't.
hangover.
It's actually disgusting. It's just you're a disgusting person sometimes. Anyway. Anyway, I had a question for you.
The dog's puking. What? The dog's puking.
Daisy, come on, Daisy. Come on, quick, Daisy. Quick, Daisy. Come on, Daisy. So I did wonder, Rosemary, of all the jobs you've had, like, are there any jobs that you took, you know, that you got the job, you got the interview, but you maybe had a foreboding premonition, you know, during the interview, and then that turned out to not be, like, as in, you know, that you, like, very often I think we go and we don't remember that we're interviewing the company as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we go and we, like, once they say, yeah, we'll hire you, we're like, thank God, brilliant,
Yeah,
hire
yeah.
me. Any job that you took that then you were like, this was a bad fit and I hated it.
You know what? Well, just I'll answer that, but I remember you saying that to me a couple of years ago before I went for an interview and saying, don't forget you're interviewing them too. Like, it might not be a good fit. And I think a lot of the time I used to approach interviews basically the way I approach dating. Like, I hope they like me, not I hope I like them.
I did think that
or-
earlier on when you said, I've never not gotten a job. And I was like, you're very proud of this the same way. I've never not gotten a second date. I know, I thought it was
It's
funny.
true,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
know.
really like try so hard to be liked.
Yeah, I think
on
like
that,
you really
like that
value
one moment in life.
No, you really value like that other people
like me.
like you. And
Yeah,
I'm like, it's
yeah.
nice to be liked, but also like, who cares if they're knobs?
My
you know?
my therapist spent a lot of time telling me I was putting too much focus on
Look
that.
at me,
Look
I'm
at you,
free.
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 Well, not really. Actually, I came over here and brought you a bottle of Grand Marnier.
Oh my God, I'm
and
going
some
to
bulbs.
Venmo you after this.
I mean, there were definitely some jobs that I had that, in hindsight, I hated. But a few of them were more because, say, like I worked in BT Kids when BT Kids was a thing, and I just hated it because people would come in with their Precious Angels and buy them Ralph Lauren jackets.
Yeah, but
So,
I
like,
mean like culturally, like where there,
Yeah, no, I know.
really
So-
toxic bosses. I think
So,
you had one or two.
When I worked in Urban Outfitters, for example, I did the interview there, and I remember a couple of weeks after I started, I was in the office getting something. There, like go to the office and get XYZ, and I saw my own file and it was open,
Oh.
like from my interview, and it said something like, "Great outfit, very urban," like very Urban Outfitters.
Very
And-
URB apostrophe N.
Oh, Jesus. And I remember I was wearing bright blue. Do you remember those bright blue boxing boots I had that were like knee-high, lace up the leg?
My God.
Yes, I wore them to the interview with like a mini skirt
I had forgotten you had
and
them.
some kind of band t-shirt and like a cool quote unquote clip in my hair. But I remember every morning in Urban Outfitters they would single. So you would have a team meeting every morning. Talking about here are our targets for the day, and we really want to focus on selling these jeans no one wants. So like if you can sell 3 pairs of those, you'll get an extra hour off or whatever. And they would pick someone out every single morning and say, "You look great today, Beatrice." Just one person. And it was always such a weird competition to be like, will it be me today? Like, I'm going to really make an effort. And you'd be so annoyed if you made like a really big effort. And then it was always this Swedish one who used to basically wear like men's Levi's jeans with flat, pointy black leather shoes. It was like very cool at the time. It was
You're
just
very
very
bitter.
effortless.
You're
Oh my God, it was
very
so
bitter.
bitter. She was really, really nice though. But it was always her.
Well, maybe you should have invited.
And
You
that
should have
was-
if you were strategic now, you would have struck up a friendship with her, had her come over, style you.
I did not. I was wearing my Kiss t-shirt and I used to have this mini skirt that was made out of different patches of like basketball jerseys.
What?
Yeah, I bought
I
it.
ever
I
see
bought
this?
it in Urban Outfitters. I'm sure you did. Bought it in Urban Outfitters. It was very cool at the time. I think. I thought.
I had
at the
this
time.
really nice leather skirt once that was mom's, and I prided myself on fitting into it because mom was tiny. When I like lost loads of weight when I was about
Where is it now?
16. Well, the funny thing is though, I put it on. Mom kept that. I don't riddle me this now. Mom and Dad kept it, right? But it was missing a big square out of the front of it because Dad had cut it to be like a chamois for one of his cars. So like I'd put it on. I was always like just willing the leather to grow back on the front so that it could just be a full-on leather skirt. Why was it still around the house?
That's actually so Dad.
Right?
Cut a segment out of it to clean his car.
There was like a full-on 3 inches square, like 9 centimeters just missing out of the
There's
front
a lot
of
of
it.
things in that house missing a bit though because Dad used it for something
Oh,
else.
poor Dad.
He's great.
Well, no, because I was thinking about a job that I had where I went for the interviews, and I have to say, like, every alarm bell went off in my head. Now, nothing you could put your finger on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I was like, this place seems weird. They're not super friendly. It's all very pristine. It's all very, everything's like super white carpets, and they all seem very up themselves, you know? But when I interviewed with them, they were like it was a great interview, but I didn't really like them. I didn't feel very relaxed around them. You know, I didn't feel like this was a great natural conversation. Like it felt very stilted. And I remember at one point I said, well, I had just had a baby, and they were like, oh, well, that's so important for us. It is so important for us that, you know, you have a good work-life balance, and working here, we will prioritize that for you. And that was probably the worst job I ever had in terms of, I had a brand new baby. I was working literally until 3 or 4 a.m. I would get taxis home at 3 or 4 a.m.
Will the
and
taxis at
more
least be
fool
paid
me.
for?
Yeah, like more fool me, you know, that I didn't just say I have to go home. But like I was the team lead, so I feel like I felt the onus. I mean, probably everybody else was like, when is Beatrice going to let us go home? Because like I was the person driving it, you know, but the workload, the expectations and the resources were not aligned, you know. And when I would bring that up, be like, no, we just, you know, the previous team did it with half the resources you have. And in that first year of being like a new mom, I was in China for 6 full months.
I remember you
like I was
saying
3
this,
weeks on, 3 weeks off. So I was literally in China for 6 months of my baby's first year. And I mean, he's fine, right? I mean, he has his problems. No, I mean, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. Like I felt such massive guilt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a baby. Like he had his dad, and his dad, luckily Don was at home with him, minding him. But like it was so hard on Don. It was so hard on the baby. It was so, because like we didn't have any other friends who had kids. We didn't have any
like
family
any
around.
family there. Yeah. And it's also the two of you. It was your first and
It was
only
our first
baby.
baby. Well, I wasn't
at
going to
the time.
specify so that it would be harder to decide which job it was. But okay,
Oh, sorry.
that's fine.
But I'm pretty sure you've already mentioned the job at which you spent 6 months in China.
Well, it's
in
fine
your career
anyway. I mean,
episode.
it's fine
Anyway.
anyway. Like it's not like I'm actually bad mouthing anybody, because it's true, you know. And it was just, but the fact that this was the job where, and I mean, I remember actually at the holidays, they were like, oh, you're going to need to go to China for 6 weeks. And I said, like, I cannot go for 6 weeks. And I thought I was, what's the word? I thought I was pulling their bluff. Like, what is wrong with me?
Jesus.
There seems to be one in every episode where I say something that sounds incredibly bad. Anyway, I thought I was calling their bluff. And I said, well, I mean, I can't go to China for 6 weeks unless you send my son and my husband with me too. And they were like, no problem, done. And then I had to go home and say to Don, Don,
You're going to China for 6 weeks.
Let's, and then we had to find somebody to mind the dog. It was an absolute nightmare. Fool me. But
and then
he
was also stuck in a hotel room with a baby for 6 weeks.
He was stuck in a hotel in like Dongguan, China, with nothing to do. We had no permits to get in and out of Hong Kong, you know, and we had a tiny baby. Like literally, it was a nightmare. And he just was, every morning he would wake up and go, well, have a good day. I'll just go downstairs and eat another croissant, like look at the baby and like be admired by the waitstaff. See you later. You know, and I was like, it was absolutely a nightmare.
You probably weren't. You were probably like, fuck you.
No, I was
I wish I wasn't here too.
Rosemary, I'm extremely reasonable. Don and I have an extremely
Your
good
nostrils are
relationship.
flaring at an astonishing.
Don and I have a really mature
reasonable.
relationship. And every time whenever we disagree, we talk it out calmly. This morning he was making like poached eggs at my request, and at one point he goes, what did he say? He said something like that sounded snappy, and I was like, oh, thanks a lot for that tone of voice. I mean, I'm literally like, yeah, no.
Was he loving the eggs as he was poaching them?
Oh my God, they were perfect. He made 7 poached eggs in about the space of about a minute and a half.
Don is an excellent chef, and I remember one day Beatrice asked him,
aggravating,
so annoying. Beatrice asked him like, you know, what am I doing wrong? And he gave her this whole lecture about how you have to love the eggs.
It's not that difficult.
You
gotta love the eggs. You just gotta love the eggs. You gotta share your love with the eggs.
It's easy to love eggs when you're a vegetarian.
I think he's joking as well, but like they still taste amazing. I think he's trying to wind me up.
I think he is trying to wind you up, but it's still perfect.
So annoying.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, did you have anything like that where you disregarded your gut instinct and like the experience might have been good? You did. Your experience might have been good, but the culture was toxic.
I've definitely worked in toxic workplaces, but you know what? I don't think I have those kind of instincts. I literally go into an interview and I'm like, love me. Like I'm like an idiot dog. I'm like, love me, be my best friend. Do you like me? I think they like me. They like me. And
give me that pen. It could be my chew toy.
Yeah, and then I wait for a week to hear, oh, did they like me? Is my phone ringing? Did they like me? Oh, you like me. He really, really likes me. Like,
oh my God, you're Sally Fields.
Psycho. Yeah. Sally Field, isn't it?
I don't know. Yes.
Absolute dope.
I'm Irish. 32 words for field. Mangon. What's his name? I don't know what his name is. What's his name? The guy who just wrote that book about 32 words for field in Irish.
Oh, Manchon Magan, isn't it?
That's what I just said.
You said Manchon Magan.
I said it's very similar. I googled it yesterday to see if I could buy it at Barnes & Noble, but it doesn't seem to be available. I thought it'd be really interesting to buy. So no, it's actually very interesting, 32 words for a field.
Says a lot about you now.
Oh.
Have you interviewed many people?
Yes, I've interviewed lots of people.
What's the most bonkers thing you've heard in an interview, or like what's it like from the other side? Because obviously every time I've done an interview, I'm literally going like trying to be on my best behaviour and like come up with the best answers. Are people ever brutally honest when you ask for, you know, what thing do you think you would find hard about this role? Do they ever go, well, like I'm really disorganised?
No, not at all. I think it's really hard to judge. I think interviews, like there has to be something beyond an interview. Like what's next beyond the interview? Because like literally you can't tell. You know?
Yeah. A friend of mine who shall remain unnamed, but let's just call her Melon. My friend Melon told us one day that she was in Topshop and she was buying something and the girl said something to her like, when are you due? And she was like, I was so offended. I was like, I'm not pregnant. And then like approximately 2 months later, I brought it up again and she was like, oh yeah, well maybe it was because I was buying that maternity top.
Well, my friend, let's call her Lemon, and I were in H&M and we were at the back of the line, back of the queue. And your one like literally goes, she goes, excuse me. If you're pregnant, you can skip the queue. She wasn't talking to me now, unfortunately. She was talking to my friend. And my friend was like raging, right? She said, come on up. Now she was wearing a very tenty top, right? But this was like the two of us were constantly being accused of being pregnant. One time we were out having drinks, like we were about 4 bottles deep. And these women at the table beside us started going like, why are you two drinking wine? Are you like, how far along are you? And we were like, what the fuck? We are wearing extremely fashionable tent dresses anyway.
Muumuus were very in for a while.
I know, I think we probably
still
were a
fond
bit
of a
chubby,
mumu.
but whatever, like at the time, but whatever. Anyway, and then afterwards when we left, she was like, God, she's like, I don't even know, I was so annoyed. I should have just been delighted to get to the top of the line, right?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, I was like, I hope
Yeah.
she took advantage of that and then gave out to your one.
Oh, we did. No, we didn't give it to your one, but like we paid and left like super
Did you go to
embarrassed.
the top of the line then?
Yeah,
then?
we did.
Oh, good. Okay.
We had to, because like it would have been an even bigger deal to be like, I'm not pregnant. It would have been like super embarrassing for everybody. Anyway, back to the thing where you said like when you interview people, the only thing I can think is when you interview people, if you think they're remotely weird or you have any
Qualms or...
whatsoever, like even if you can't put your finger on what they are, believe them. Because
Yeah.
I've never actually had a qualm that has not come to bite
fruition.
me in the ass. Yeah, genuinely. Like I'm thinking now, even of my most recent hires, like there were a couple. There was one woman who came to interview. This was now a couple of years ago, and she came to interview and she talked a lot about like her skill and her talent, and like she seemed great, but there was something off about her. And not to be super shallow, but she was wearing a really strange crochet jumper, right? And I was like, that's kind of a weird jumper.
Think she crocheted herself?
No, definitely not. But she talked a lot about like how she was top of this and top of that and top of, and I was like, oh. And afterwards we had a lot of debate around, is she the right person? She seemed a bit, arrogant. She seemed a bit this. But when she joined, anyway, we hired her. I ignored all that. And we hired her. And literally I had a phone call from one of the people who was working for her. Hey, are you sure this is the right person? I'm like, yeah, I hope so. And luckily, I think most people feel they can talk to me, so it wasn't like they all were suffering in silence by any stretch of the imagination. And like, rightly so, right? But they're like, we're not sure she can really do the job. She needed us to come into her office today to turn on her computer, to boot it up for her, to show her how a mouse worked and to click on a folder so she could actually understand how to get onto the internet. And I was like, that's a bit alarming. Then this same person was like, I don't actually draw myself. So like we work in design, I don't actually draw myself. My team draws, right? But I don't usually give them direction myself. My assistant does, right? And in fact, I don't usually get inspiration from books. My husband is my main source of inspiration. He's an artist. So I never mentioned in my old job, he was employed as well. So the two of us were like a team. And I basically interpreted the art that he created. And I was like, how did I miss all of this in an interview? Like, how did I miss
it, whispered it into the ear of her assistant?
No, basically took it from him, handed it over to the assistant, told the assistant what she would like to happen with this art. And I was like, how did I manage to miss this? So, some of it you can't help, right? Like there are like multiple people involved in rounds of interviewing. And most interviews have, certainly in my job, like 3 or 4 interviews and a project, right? So you would think that at least the project would show.
I hate
but actually,
projects.
I'd have to say maybe a project is the way to go, because I think when I've done projects, that has weeded out. Whereas with this person, I didn't do a project. And I think very often the amount of effort somebody puts into a project shows you, A, like how invested they are in this role, or B, how talented they are.
Yeah, what they're capable of.
How talented they are by themselves. Because so many people are good at directing. But and it depends what you want them to do as well, right? Because if you want somebody to actually be the manager of everybody, you don't necessarily want them.
You don't need them to be an incredible,
but you do need them to understand it, right? At the same time, how can you rise to the ranks of manager if you've never done all those jobs?
Yeah, you need to know other people's roles. Yeah.
I did an interview for Kate Spade, right? I don't think it's bad to say that. I did an interview for Kate Spade, and when I went, they sent me off to do a project, and I did a massive in-depth project, but the parameters were reimagine Kate Spade, think about entirely, totally different direction we could go in, right? So I went home and I was like, it's easy enough to imagine what Kate Spade could be tomorrow as it is, right? As it was. This would have been 10 years ago. But to kind of totally reimagine it was a bit I don't really know. In hindsight, I think I should have said, tell me what you mean. Who's your customer target, But I was like, okay, well, you could do this or you could do that. And then I went back and they brought me in to meet the president. And they were like, oh, she's going to present her project. And the president was like, this doesn't look like our brand. This doesn't look anything like our brand. And I was like, it was really embarrassing because I was with the person who'd given me the project. And I was like, and she didn't say a thing. I gave her this direction, or I told her to do something entirely different.
Yeah.
She kind of sat there super silent when your one was like, this doesn't look on brand for us. And I was like, that wasn't the scope of the project, So it kind of made me think when you get a project, to make sure that you're fully, I think it was a really bad project in hindsight, but to make sure that you're really clear on what they're actually asking.
Yeah, that your goals are aligned. Yeah. When Topshop opened their flagship shop on Stephen's Green, I went and interviewed for it was the first time they'd brought in personal stylists
Yeah,
in
I remember
Ireland, and I
this.
went and interviewed for a personal stylist. I think I was I doing a bit of expose at the time, and I was styling some shoots and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'd done some kind of
It sounded like a cool job, right?
yeah, it did sound like a really cool job, but the interview was like really like it was really involved, as in there was like a one-on-one interview or like a two-on-one, you know what I mean? There was a traditional interview format. Then there was a group thing where everybody had to bring an object and talk about how the object represented Topshop to them. And yeah, and like one person
Was it
had,
an object that you bought in Topshop?
no,
Or
no,
like
it,
a
no,
stone?
no, it just could be any object. Like
Oh.
so one girl had brought a disco ball because she was talking about how it was fun and it was dynamic and it helped make the most of the space it was in, and also it was all these tiny little parts worked together to create an incredible
clever.
effect. Really clever. Someone else brought like a Venetian mask and talked about creativity and art. Like it was all, you're also like, it's just a shop.
Yeah, yeah.
This is why I didn't get the job. It's just a fucking shop. I probably brought like a Topshop bag and I was like, this is where you put your stuff from Topshop. No, I didn't quite. I can't actually remember what I brought. But
You didn't get the job.
No, I did not. Actually, so I'm misremembering. There's several jobs I didn't get. Here's one of them. I'm so full of shit. But we also had to go and do a one-on-one styling session with somebody who already worked in Topshop. So it was one of their regional managers or one of their area managers, and was basically like, so she would play the part of, I'm starting a new job and I want to spend X amount, and I think I need this and this and this. And so like you were sent around, because the Stevens Green one wasn't open yet, so you were sent around the Jervis one, and they basically said to you, you'll be asked to do a styling thing. So really I should have gone in that morning, spent 2 hours figuring out where everything was.
You didn't?
I went in for about 10 minutes, I think. I went for a coffee. I think I went for like
And a pecan
I
plat.
went for a coffee and a pastry, and then was like,
Yeah.
I'll have a bit of a buzz around.
Yeah.
But what was really awkward was the girl who I actually know now through styling, and like, Dublin's like so small. But it was just really awkward because she then had to give the feedback in front of me and in front of the like adjudicators or whatever, and was basically like, I felt like she wasn't very familiar with the product and she didn't really take my, basically I think she said something like, I think she was catering more to her style than my style, which was always my problem as a stylist, to be honest.
But like, excuse me, wasn't familiar with the product. You've been there for a hot second.
Yeah, but like, because we had known about this interview
Oh.
for like 3 weeks, I think there were like some people had spent the entire 3 weeks figuring out what's the sizing like in Topshop, what's coming up, what are the trends,
Well, I do think that's a really
did
weird
not.
one, actually, when I interview people and they go, oh, what's your background? And I'm like, have you literally not bothered to click on my LinkedIn? But like, I have people on my team who will go, oh, did you really work at so-and-so? And I'm like, are you having a laugh? Like, literally having a laugh.
I don't know that I've ever looked up anybody who's interviewed me.
I 100% would recommend that as step number one. Who has interviewed? Who is interviewing you? What's their background? But like your manager, your boss, you don't know what their background is. Oh
Not
my
unless
God.
they've told me. God, I'm crap.
Oh,
no
my
wonder
God.
I'm unemployable. My God, I better stay self-employed for the rest of my life, because this is just, I'm crap. But you know what? When you were saying if you ever have any qualms about people, listen to that. Anytime I have ever been in an interview and they've said to me, like when you're interviewing, sometimes somebody will go, my one concern for you in this role would be, I think you are very creative and this role might not be creative enough for you, or might not be interesting enough for you. Or they'll go like, I think you seem like somebody who's very driven and this is much
Opinionated.
more collaborative. who's like very used to working on their own initiative, and this is a very collaborative role,
This is
blah,
the
blah, blah.
requirements here are from 9 to 5, and you seem like somebody who prefers to spread those 8 hours
Oh my
between
God.
9 and
Thank
11.
God, like the last office jobs, the last office jobs I had, all I'll say is thank God I smoked.
Why?
Because I
you
got to
could take
go
a
out
break.
on the hour, every hour, 10 or 15 minutes, chat with the guys, the guy that I really fancied from
for
IT,
God's sake.
be like, oh yeah, we're just out here having a smoke.
Oh
Chill.
my God.
Um,
Men, again, it's all about men with you.
oh, it is all about men.
I know, it's pathetic. Girls, it's not all about men. It's about yourself.
Girls and
self-respect.
boys and non-binary people.
Oh, people, it's not all about men.
Anyway, in like anytime anybody's ever said that to me, like my concern for you would be this, they have been exactly correct.
Oh, are you serious? I
Literally,
thought you were going to say like how patronizing.
No.
Oh.
When I interviewed for Stay City, I remember somebody saying to me, I'm just not sure. Like, it seems like you're very used to working in a creative role and to kind of being self-guided. And this is going to be very much kind of by the book. It's going to be very like, not boring, but like very kind of marketing content.
But you know what?
And very repetitive.
But you know what, that also,
it
like, that's a
was.
two-way street, because that's interesting to me that you're saying that now, because I'm thinking, I've said to people in the past, I'm not sure this role is good for you because, it seems like, because more what I'm trying to say is be aware this is not a creative role. You seem creative. And they were always like, yeah. And if they take the job, I think that they've taken that on board. What they're really thinking is, she's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to make this as creative as possible. But like that never occurred to me before right now. So I'm thinking now, if I ever have that feeling that this is not a good fit for somebody, it isn't.
Not even that I was like, I'm going to make this creative. But in my head, I was like, I can totally knuckle down and do a boring job for 6 years while I save for my mortgage.
Is this Rosemary McCabe?
Listeners, I cannot.
No, she cannot. Is this you like when you took your last job and you were like, I'm just going to do it for 12 months. And after a month, you text me, you were like, I'm going to quit. This is too boring. Is that this same person? Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
So what are we learning at the end of this? Anything?
I can never go back to paid employment.
What are we learning in general?
Oh, sorry.
This? We're learning trust your instinct.
Trust your instinct. But also, you know what? Like, honestly, the most important thing you ever, like the only useful thing you've ever said to me was...
Me?
Yeah. The only useful thing you, Beatrice McCabe, have ever said to me, Rosemary McCabe, is you are also interviewing them.
Oh,
because that had never occurred to me before.
Oh, yeah.
You said that to me. And I remember after that, I started asking people, what do you like about working here? And and they go, do you have any questions for us? And I used to go, no, I think that's okay. Whereas now when I interview, I mean, not that I do, but like in the last couple of interviews, I've always asked, what do you like about working here? And also, what do you think is going to be the most challenging part of this role?
That's interesting. Well, I mean, I'm taking away this idea of like, if I have reservations about somebody and they're fit for the role, like it isn't up to them necessarily to adapt to that, but that I should take on board, like before I go ahead and hire them, that can they adapt or like... Yeah.
Or like
is it reasonable to expect them to adapt?
Is it reasonable to expect someone to change? Because also, like, you have to bear in mind, if you're like, I don't really think I'm a people pleaser, but I'm like, I'm a total sucker up. Like, I just really want people to like me.
I think
you know
that's
what I mean?
called people pleasing.
So if you're interviewing somebody who's a people pleaser and you say to them, I'm not sure this is going to be for you, and they convince you, it's because they want you to hire them. They want you to offer it to them. They want to feel wanted.
I'd like to go back to like, you want to be a people pleaser, but you're just not that pleasant.
This, you know what? My facial reactions. I remember when I used to do midday on TV.
Oh my God, that absolute best picture in the world. Absolute best.
People used to message me and be like, "Your facial expressions, like you, because I cannot hold it in."
There's no poker face going on.
No, not at all.
Well, it's like you said earlier on. What did you say? Like, that's your resting bitch face. Well, like Dad said to me, along with the cankles comment, and you haven't got your mother's legs. He just said to me one day, literally apropos of nothing, you've got a desperate resting bitch McCabe face.
You have, so do I.
Yeah, but like, I didn't need that on top of everything else he's already laden onto me.
You know that I once said to a friend of mine who is very slim, possibly when we were about 14, I said to her, oh my God, thank God you have stretch marks too. And she didn't know. And like, I honestly, it was literally in my head going, oh my God, everyone has them. That's worse than the resting bitch face. It's pretty bad.
I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it's good that you pointed out to her what they were so she recognised her own body, how it works.
You bitch. Anyway, if somebody is a people pleaser, they might be lying to you to get you to like them.
Oh, they probably are, I think is what you're saying. So after this great dispensary of advice. Oh,
I just want to say about my facial expressions. Somebody said to me the other day, you should record some of your episodes and put them like behind a paywall, as in a video. Right?
Okay.
Which you had, already suggested. Uh-huh. But I was like, I can't. My facial, because you keep laughing at my facial expressions. I'm like, I don't want them on the internet. I don't want people to send me screen grabs of me going,
Rosemary, you put pictures of yourself dancing in the pool in a bikini. You're
it was
grand.
A video.
Yeah, you're grand. There's nothing bad out there. Like I said to you already, it would literally be mainly a white eyeball with a tiny bit of pupil. It would be fine rolling in the top of your head. So it'd be good.
That would be 99% of the time.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, as long as people, I think it's more the question is, do people actually want to watch that for an hour? I'm not just saying you, me too.
Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Not Without My Sister. You can subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Tell your friends. Tell people you don't know. We got a message from somebody who said she was laughing so hard at one of our episodes that she was, what was it? She was asked by the traffic warden. She was driving her kids to school or something, and the traffic warden said, are you okay? Because she was crying laughing.
I thought it was the guy at the bus stop.
Oh yeah, sorry. No. This is another one. She was crying. Anyway, she was crying laughing, and so was like, are you okay? And she was like, oh my God, I missed this podcast. You should listen to it. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's nice.
So tell your friends and random strangers.
Thanks. Other topics include?
Other things we've talked about. Online dating. Men. I love talking about men.
In your case, men. In my case,
No. I
sports.
just meant I love talking about men.
In my case, I've talked about sports, talked about
You
careers.
I've talked about sports. I talked about how I was basically the anchor in the school tug of war. That's not talking about
and
sports.
various other sporting initiatives. We've talked about
Sporting initiatives. I actually cannot. We've talked about our careers at length.
We've talked about both of our parents.
We have.
We've talked about bodies.
Oh yeah, we've talked about body positivity or lack
And
thereof.
what we would like to do is we would like to do some reviews. So we thought it would be good fun we got a lot of feedback from what was that episode that we talked about? What was that TV show? Sweet Magnolias.
Did we?
Yeah, we got a lot of commentary about that. People saying, oh, I watched it too and I loved it too, etc. And so we thought it would be fun to do an episode where we review stuff. Now, not necessarily super highbrow, because we started out with like, oh, we should review this business book. And Rosemary said, that's a terrible idea. So then we were like, maybe we should review some fun TV shows or books or movies. And then we thought it would be good to ask you all to recommend what we should review. So let us know what you think. So we're going to start our reviews with the new cleaning up show on Netflix called
Tidying Up. Get organised with the home edit.
Exactly. Starting out with, I think, Reese Witherspoon's home. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. And just don't expect like a super long, highly in-depth review, because you're going to imagine that there might be some segues into trivia.
Random crap.
Yes.
Don't expect us to remember any facts, any names, any details whatsoever.
But expect us to have lots of opinions.
Lots of, loosely
as they
held
pertain to
opinions.
ourselves. Yes.
And
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, lots of ways of making all these things about us. And we will catch you on Friday for our mini-sode, which is now in your ear holes every Friday morning. Bye.
Bye.
Not Without My Sister is produced by Liam Garrity. Original music and sound by Don Kirkland, and original illustration by Lindsay Nielsen.
Not Without My Sister is a member of The Warren, the home of great Irish podcasts. As is my podcast, Meet Your Maker. You'll find more great shows at thewarren.ie.